All right, so today I had a question that came in from a viewer, and they wanted to know how to earn credibility as a tutor and educator and reach a marketable student base. So this is a fantastic question because I think this is, if you can become someone who can teach, you are bound to find a lot of people who will pay for your services because they know that you know what you're doing. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. The first piece of advice is to just start. If you want to start teaching people something, you have to just start. Just like you, I started out with 0 followers on Twitter. I started out with 0 subscribers on YouTube. I started out with no blog readers and anything. In 2005, when I started my blog, actually 2006 when I started my blog, a lot of people said it was already too late. Blogging is already too old. At that time, everybody said it was too late for podcasting too. Podcasts had already had this huge hit early in the 2000s, and it was too late to start podcasting. It was too late to start writing a blog. So I started writing a blog in 2006, hoping that I could still maybe catch the tail end of the wave. Well, I'll tell you what, it's still not too late. There's tons of opportunity out there, so you just need to start. Now, a lot of the time people ask, well, what do I need and what should I be teaching people when they're starting out? The first thing I would recommend is, if you're not comfortable being on video, to just start writing tutorials of some kind. Not sure what to teach? Well, what did you recently do at your job that maybe was challenging? Did you build a screen, a web app, something, you did something witty? What did you do? Most likely you could write a small tutorial about how you implemented that inside of a blog with screenshots and code examples and post it to your blog. You then would take your blog and your blog post and then go talk about it on a place like Reddit or some other type of forum where people might be interested in learning about what you posted. Furthermore, you would share it on your LinkedIn, on your Twitter, and on your social media pages. The goal here is to share the information you have out there. Now, for those of you that haven't dove into a lot of stuff that Gary Vee has done, I highly recommend you go read the book Crush It. This is one of I think it's Gary's first book he wrote. I think it's maybe 2010-ish. And he basically outlines what you can do to go out there and share your knowledge, to actually get involved and be seen as kind of an authority in a given area. Now, I didn't read this book until 2015-ish, but it resonated with me deeply because it was basically exactly what I did to go start building my own personal brand around programming and Android and everything of that nature, and eventually consulting. So first off, you can just start writing some articles, and those are going to be articles around tutorials and so forth. The next thing you could do is you could start a podcast. Now, there's 2 things you could do here. You could have a podcast where you just share what you learn, or if you don't feel comfortable that you feel that you don't know enough to start a podcast, what you could do is start a podcast where you interview other people. And on this podcast, you might bring on people that you respect and so forth, and ask them certain questions about their career, how they solve certain problems, or maybe if you saw them give a talk online, either on YouTube or in person, regarding a specific technology, you could ask them, hey, I would love for you to be on my podcast. I'd like to ask you some questions about that technology. Would you be interested? Most of the time, you're going to get an answer of yes, people would love to be on the podcast. So schedule it, get them on the podcast, have a list of questions you want to ask them, share the questions with them, and interview them. You can have a fantastic podcast where you're seen as an educator simply by asking someone else questions. How? Because you're sharing your learning experience with them. You're asking the questions that someone else probably also has. So you are now becoming the platform in which someone can learn. So they're going to see you as an educator as well. Which also leads to video tutorials. If you would like to record video tutorials, you can do that. You can install something like Camtasia or ScreenFlow on your machine, and then you can record video tutorials of how to do something on the computer. Just get a decent mic so you sound decent. There's tons of options that are out there. Once you get that going, you can then just publish those on YouTube or some other type of video site. You don't have to have your face on there. If you don't want to put your face, that's fine. You can just record your screen and talk over it, make sure the audio levels are good, edit it after you do it, and publish it. And that's how you can start putting videos out there, which will automatically start showing you as an educator and as a tutor. Now we could keep going on and on about different things, such as going and speaking at events, which I recommend, and you could do all of that. However, what really happens is in order to be seen as someone who's kind of gaining momentum in the space, what you need to do is follow some type of schedule. You need to release this content on a continual basis. Have some type of cadence in which you're going to release this content. What do I recommend? Well, I recommend that you try to write at least one article a week, just one. If you can stick to one article a week, you're going to write 52 articles in a year. That's a lot of articles. Even if you get to one every other week, you're still doing pretty good. So aim for one a week. They don't have to be super in-depth. They could be short. Aim for one article a week. That's all you could do. For videos, try to do one video a month. Just put one video out to see how it does. If that feels good and you have time and you can do more, do 2 a month, maybe 3, maybe 4. It depends on your flow, depends on how you feel about it. What a lot of these things are going to boil down to is how you can systemize the process to kind of speed everything up. For example, these videos, this is the 4th video I'm recording today into this camera for the YouTube videos that I'm going to be putting out for the next couple of weeks. I'm batching up everything. This is my process. So once I've batched everything up, I can then go and edit when I have free time and then get these out. But now I'm recording everything at once. So you're going to figure out a system and a process that works for you. If you have a podcast, I highly recommend you do a weekly podcast. The nice thing about podcasts is they're just audio. You don't have to worry about video. And editing audio is far easier than editing video and audio at the same time. And it's easy to find people to talk to, and there's probably lots of topics that you could talk about. You don't have to make your podcast 25 to 50 minutes long or an hour long if you don't want to. It doesn't have to be 3 hours. Your podcast could be 8 minutes long about here's this new tip that I learned, and here's what it is. Your podcast might just be 5-minute tips, 10-minute tips. You get the point. You can have all different types of formats, and that might be your shtick. That's okay. But try to at least release once a week on the same day and get that cadence going. That's what's going to build your podcast the fastest over periods of time. When people see podcasts coming out continually over and over and over, and you're publicizing them and talking about them, getting good hosts on, getting good questions, and sharing content, people are going to start listening. Now, once you get to the point where you feel comfortable to go speak in front of an audience and do public speaking, I highly recommend that you speak a minimum of once every 3 months. So once a quarter. This could be an online conference, it could be an in-person conference, a small user group where there's 10 people or 5 people, but at least get out in front of the public in some way, at least once a quarter. If you can't do that, at least once every 6 months. I find though, as soon as you go past the 4-month period, you start to lose some of your edge, you start to lose some of what you have gotten used to for building different topics. And that's furthermore, a lot of the times what you can do is you can reuse your content. You might provide a presentation at a small little local user group here where you teach a small technology in front of 10 people, and you could take that same presentation, refine it after your first presentation, and go give it to a larger audience in another town. They've never seen it, they've never heard it, perhaps it wasn't recorded. You can go provide it to them just fine. This is what speakers do all the time. So there's tons of options out there. So let's go ahead and recap. What do you need to do to become an educator or a tutor and to start developing a marketable student base? You just have to start. And when you start and you continually get stuff out there over a cadence, over a period of time, and you're releasing new content all the time, people are going to start noticing, and they're going to start becoming your students just by naturally learning from you. This could be from you writing your blog articles, it could be putting out podcasts, videos, speaking, anything of that nature. Just continually share your knowledge, and what you're going to find is people will naturally start coming to you and learning from you. You'll start getting emails, comments on your blog, on your video saying thank you for all this stuff, and they'll start seeing you as someone who is a leader in the space. And eventually what you'll realize is sometimes consulting gigs will just come in from these various different sources as well. Now, I hope that answers your question. Again, if you have any questions like this or you'd like to write me, you can please just send me a direct message on Twitter, or you can go to my website and reach me there, and I'll do my best and answer here in a video fashion, and I'll catch you in the next video.